Box.
That was where our mailbox was. And it had a big sign at the top with a picture of a Hereford cow and said Draper Valley Farms. I actually have the sign in my basement now.
Really?
Yep.
With the Hereford?
Yep. Yep.
I have to see this.
Yeah. Okay. This is where our garden spot was when I was growing up. The garden here, and then of course I told you that the other night we had a garden over on the farm too. And you can't even hardly see it, but right up there is where the cow house where we milked the cows and all was.
Now, how do you get a cow into a cow house?
Just open the door.
Seriously?
Seriously. I mean, obviously the first time you have to drive them in there, but like the milk cows, they knew what time they were milking, and then they had their own stalls, and they walked right into them waiting on us. They'd be out here waiting on us to milk them.
Wow.
Yep, sure enough. And we'd have cats out at the barn, usually one or two, and we'd keep them out at the barn we'd have a bowl out there, and we'd, put part of the milk in there. Of course, when we're milking, they'd sometimes come around, and we'd squirt them with milk. They would move their head around trying to catch it. It was pretty comical for us kids. Now, on the left-hand side over here, I don't know whether you can see any of the old house or not. I'll ease on forward just a little more.
When you say house?
And right up in there, that right there was my grandparents' house.
Is that where your dad grew up?
That's where my dad grew up. Right there. Of course, all of this here was land that they planted corn or whatever, some tobacco and different things like that. Grandpa sold vegetables. They used to every Saturday morning out at the parking lot on Fayette Street, they sold produce out there. And Grandpa would get all his produce and take it over there. And I told you that because I found out an interesting story not too long ago. I say not too long ago. Probably when I was about 20 years old, I met a lady. Her name is Lucy Clark, and she had worked at the clerk's office since she was like 14 years old. And when I met her, she looked at me and she said, I told her my name, Greg Draper. And she said, "You're a Draper from over in Vicksburg." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You're Peyton Draper's grandson, Vic." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She said, "Interesting thing." She said, "He came in one Saturday morning and asked me, what can I do to get Social Security for my wife if something happens to me?" And she told him, said, "Well, you got to pay into it and all." So every Saturday, they were open on Saturday at that time. The clerk's office was half a day. So every Saturday he would go and sell his produce, and then he would go give money to the clerk's office to put up for Social Security. When I went to work at the flower shop when I was 16, just got my driver's license, and Miss Maddie Draper, which is Earl Draper's mother, Doris on the flower shop, her husband Earl. I came in from school, to making deliveries and all, and I walked in the door there, and Doris said, "Miss Maddie, I want to introduce you to somebody." She said, "You don't have to introduce me to anybody. I can tell you that's Peyton Draper's grandson." I looked at her kind of funny. She said, "You're a spitting image of it." She said, "You're taller than he was, but she said, you're a spitting image of Peyton Draper." And I thought that was pretty neat. Now, all of this land on the left side over here was Grandpa's land.
Okay.
And then Dr. Jordan lives down there. I really don't know very much about it. I mean, I remember a lot of different people owning that land because there's been a pond built there about 4 or 5 times. And I say a pond, it's probably like a 25 acre. But they never built it well enough and it washed out every time. So.
Now, all of this was your.
That was my grandpa's.
All of this was your grandpa's. Now, was it left to your dad?
To what?
Was it left to your dad?
No.
No.
No, it was sold at auction once Grandma passed away. And we'll get this corner here is the corner of our property. It has 100 acres back in there. And in the winter, well, really from about 1st of December until about April, every evening after school, I had to come over here and feed the cows. We'd keep hay in the top, cows in the bottom. If that weather was bad, we'd feed them right in there. If it wasn't, I had to take it all out in the fields and feed them so that the seeds would get back in the land and manure would get on the land and keep it rich.
And what all is back here?
To this side would be Grandpa's old place. To the left side. If you go right straight ahead, we have what they call the Pink Draper Place. He was, I really don't know what his name totally was. It probably was Pinckney, but I don't know that. But his house was down in the first hollow that you come to there. And then if you go on out and go out the ridge there, the farm behind us was where not Joe Lacey, but Spencer Lacey and Miss Rose Lacey lived. And she was daughter to Pink Draper. Okay?
Got it.
There, right down in there, if you walk down through the woods there's an old chimney still standing there. That was where Charlie and Fanny Bette Draper lived. And, then if you go on out this road, then turn out there at the top of the hill and take a left and go down. This is what I was talking about, the old post road here.
Okay.
Okay. If you go on down that old post road, there's a cemetery down there on the left. But ironically enough, even though Drapers owned all of this land, really not that many Drapers buried there.
Did they just make money by?
No, there is some Drapers there, but then there's like some Thomasons and people that had married into there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like every stone you see is a Draper. And when you're going down through there, when you pass that cemetery, on the right is what they call Aunt Elvira Place. And it was 18 acres. She was sister to Miss Rose Lacey. And if you go all the way down to the bottom of the hill, there's a big bottom down there. And right at the top of that was a house that I can't remember what his name is, but he basically is the furthest back Draper that we can find. And we actually, the house was all crumbled in and all, and we actually, burnt that up and had to haul the rocks off of it and, planted hay there. But the old spring that they used is still down there, and they had built it up with rock, but a bunch of the rock had fell, and when I was a kid, we went in and cemented the walls and all and fixed it up so it's a real nice steel, real nice spring, not a nice steel.
Was that a Freudian slip there, Papa? Or?
No, but I will tell you, if you go down the Pink Draper Hollow, there's at least 2 steels that have been cut up down there.
Really?
You can see the metal still laying there. What they would do when they would catch them out there, is they'd come in and, you know, pour out all the liquor, and the they had what they call the submarine, which was where they kept the mash and all to cook it out of, and which is wood on the sides, and then it has sheet metal wrapped around under, so they could build a fire under it to keep it hot. And the revenuers would just take an axe and just cut through the metal and all around it, so that they couldn't come back and use it again. So
interesting.
yeah, so yes, there has, and I don't know. Daddy said he didn't even know who ran those two steels over. And yeah, he may have just not been willing to tell me. But the road looks good. But the land itself, we would have had none of these trees here. You would have seen total grass and all. In fact, we raised hay in that field right there. Raised alfalfa in that field right there for years.
So, how did you gather hay?
We
Did you have one of those fancy things?
We had well, I wouldn't say too fancy. We had of course mowing machine on the tractor to cut it down, and then we had a rake behind the tractor that would put it in a windrow, and then the baler would bale it, and then we had to pick it up on. Daddy would do the baling, and Donnie and I had to put the hay on the trailer or truck, whatever we was working with, as Mom pulled along through the field. Yeah.
And what is this?
You want to go down this way. Yeah. This is just a shed that we built over here. We kept machinery in it, but most of the time we would put hay and all up. I mean, not hay, but corn. We'd put it in there and feed what was left, you know, after the cows out of there.
What is left in there now? Like, if you were to go...
It's some equipment in there. There's a corn planter and a few different things. Gee whiz, look at that tree. It fell down.
Holy moly!
I mean, that is one huge root where that fell off of.
Holy. But it didn't fall on the road?
No, not a bit of it in the road. That's funny. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This here on the right, that's what I was telling you, the pink Draper Place.
Okay.
Yeah. It actually came across from right over at that shed to a point out here that I'll show you. This road is actually cut through to the Spencer Lacey place that I was telling you about.
Where did you see those bears that time you were out here?
We'll show you that after we go down there, but right down the hill there. I mean,
these are some thick trees.
Yeah, that's where pines come up when, you know, they start. If you don't mow land or do something with it, pines will take it over, and then the bigger ones will eventually take over and crowd out the little ones, and then you'll walk through here in 15 years and it'll just be big pines and all. Now this right here is the corner.
Whose land is this now?
Okay, this over here is still ours. It comes to that point right there. If you can see it, you might need to back up just a little bit. Looks like an old metal water tank or something that somebody, well, see it right there where it's got the orange marker on it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the corner of the pink Draper Place.
Okay.
Okay, and then it comes to the point in the center of the road up there and follows the road out to the ridge. Okay, all of this used to be cow pasture. That was where we kept the cows, was all back in the pink Draper Place. I think it's a 46-acre tract there. My dad, tell you another interesting story. they cut the timber off of this, and the man, the guy that had bought the place and cut the timber off, and I'm not sure I remember which logging company it was. Anyway, he came to Daddy and he said, "You need to buy that piece of property over there." And Daddy told him, said, "I'd love to have it, but I don't have the money for it." He said, "Well, go to the bank." He said, "No, sir, I don't borrow money." So he came back to him about a year later, and he said, "You interested in that land?" He said, "Yeah, but I still don't have enough money." Now, enough money, interestingly enough, was $2,400 at that time.
That was it?
That was what he wanted for that piece of property there. So he said, "Well, have you got half of it?" He said, "Yeah, I have 1,200. He said, "Well, tell you what, you pay me the 1,200 now, and in another year you can pay the other 1,200. And Daddy agreed to that, and he paid him off in like 6 months. But we did not do anything with the land until it was paid for. Daddy would not let us do anything with the land until it was paid for.
Huh.
That was the closest to borrowing money Daddy
Not even
ever did.
half of it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say, "Okay, well, this is my half."
No. That was the closest he'd ever come to borrowing money, and it was really just a thing to, hold
What's
the land for
that
him.
post for?
It's just something that's been wrapped. That's one of the fence posts. Fence ran right along here
Okay.
to keep the cows in and all. Now, this right here on the left is the Aunt Elvira place that I was talking about.
Okay.
Of course, it's been grown up since I was a kid. Grandma had somebody cut the timber off of it before she died at 65, and all of that's grown back up since then. It's some good timber in there now. Yeah, I've seen bear, deer, squirrels, rabbits. I used to, when I was coming over on the farm to feed the cows in the evenings, I'd bring a gun with me, and if it was in season, I'd kill a couple of squirrels and take them home, clean them up. Mama would fix them for breakfast the next morning, and Daddy would eat the squirrels, and I'd eat squirrel gravy.
Gravy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Squirrel gravy was awesome. Killed rabbits over here. There's a lot of wild turkeys in here. Now, believe it or not, when I was a kid, I hardly ever saw a deer over here. Now they're all around here, and the way I understand it, pretty much the deer had been hunted out in this area, and in the early 50s they took 2 pickup trucks and went out to, I think it was Indiana, and put as many deer on them as they could, live deer.
In the 50s?
In the early 50s, and brought them and turned them loose up there at next to Goose Point, in the, where all of that government land is there.
Mm-hmm.
Turned them loose in there, and then from that's where all of these deer came around here. They had an article in the paper about it one time and all, but I don't know what I did with the article. I can't remember, but I did have the article telling about that.
That's a root too.
Yeah.
I'm still impressed with how well kept this root is.
Well, it wasn't before,
That's,
until these people bought the Spencer Lacey place. Before, it was just a old dirt road. In fact, out through there was just pines. I had to walk through the pines to show them where to go and all. In fact, I had to, when these people got the place, asked if they could go through there. They asked me if I could come over and get with them and show them how it went in. And so I did. I walked all down through there and took them down to the old Spencer Lacey house and all, because they'd always come in from the other side on Reed Creek Drive. And now the people that owned that land wouldn't let them come through there. So I walked with them down there and I said, okay, y'all know how to, y'all do whatever you want to. I'm gonna cut up across the hill over here and go down to our place. And they were like, no, I don't think we can find our way out of here. I said, okay. Now what you're gonna want to do is turn right here. What were you gonna say?
Wait, you were telling them to turn right. You're not telling me to turn right, right?
Yes, I am.
You are telling me to turn right.
I was just looking at how much the road's grown up and wondered if we really wanted to.
I mean, I'm willing to do it, but it's your truck, Papa.
Yeah, I don't want my truck stuffed out.
Okay.
And I hadn't been down there this year, so. But if this is what they call the old post road through here, and right down there at the halfway down this hill was where I saw the bear and the cubs and all. And that hillside there is the one I went around to get away from her. Gave her room. She owned that land, as far as I was concerned. And then right out just a little ways is the cemetery, and then
So down there's where we went shooting at, right?
Yes.
Yes. Then that's like a little field, and where the creek is, and where. Okay.
Yeah. So the way.
So what I've never been is I've never been that way.
That's correct.
I've only been that way.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we have 100 acres in here. Daddy bought 20 acres, more or less, on the old Draper Place down there where we were shooting.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was talking about the house and all. And the barn's actually still standing down there. And then he bought this land right here, and I don't remember exactly how many acres is in here. Like 34. Yeah, 34 acres. I think's what it is. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then this is a Pink Draper Place, was the last that we bought, and that was 46 acres.
Pete Draper.
Pink.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just like the color pink.
Because I was like, Pete Draper, that's the guy that isn't he on the fire department or something?
Used to be. That's Doris's son.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's Pink.
Daddy said that Pink Draper was crippled when he was a kid and couldn't do much work and all, and said he would go down there and pick on the slaves that was working down in the bottom down there and got whipping for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so one Sunday afternoon, this was probably 2-3 years ago, I was out motorcycle riding and I decided to come over here to the farm, just walk around through the farm, and I walked all the way down to the bottom, down at the creek, and coming back up the old road there, and I was just walking along, just enjoying what the Lord had put around there, pretty trees and all of that, and all of a sudden I hear and I looked and it was 2 little bear cubs running up a tree. Well, my first thought was, where is Mama? Because I hope I ain't between her and them cubs. And so I stood perfectly still, and she was just around a little corner. She wasn't far from me at all, but it was just around the curb and had enough bank there that I couldn't see her. But when she stood up on her hind legs, I saw her. And I stood perfectly still, and I said to myself, when she gets to move over next to them cubs, I'm gonna go the opposite way. So sure enough, she dropped down and headed over towards the cubs, and I jumped up over the bank out of the road there and took a wide berth around her. Just let her have her space.
But your heart did numbers that day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, let me tell you, a bear is a lot bigger thing when you're up close. It's
Brown
amazing.
or black?
Black bear.
Black bear.
Yeah. It's amazing how big they are and all.
Now, when Jason and I first started dating, one of the things that you did was you came up here and you walked the farm.
Right.
What did that mean to you? Why did you do that?
My dad and I always, not always, but a lot of Sunday afternoons, my dad and I would walk, come over on the farm and just look around, walk the fence lines to make sure no trees fell across the fence and all. And I love to get out and hike, and it's plenty of room up here to do it, and you know, it's not somebody's trail or something, it's just which way do you want to go to get up a hill. And I always have enjoyed that. So I just walk around, see, you know, what trees had fell down, and you know, what was going on over here.
You had told me a story a few weeks ago about you and Don having to ride a horse.
No, it was a mule. Mule. Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me that story now that we are on this in the thing.
Right,
Retell
okay.
that story of
Right.
where you started out
Okay.
and where you had to go.
Right. So over there at the house, we had the garden there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a mule, and Daddy was working at the garden with the mule. He'd go down between the rows and break it up, and of course we'd come along with the hose and get anything that was up close to the plants with the hoe. Well, when he got through with that, he was going to come over here to the farm, and I don't know really what we were doing. I almost, anyway, whatever, he needed the mule over here. Maybe he was going to cultivate some corn over here or something. So he, because we was just little kids then, he put us up on the mule. I was in front just holding on to the harness, and my brother, who's a year older than me, he was behind me hanging on. Well, when Daddy turned us loose there, I just headed out of the garden there, and it went right under the clothesline where Mom always hung out the clothes. Well, obviously I saw the clothesline. I was in the front, and I assumed he would see it. He didn't. So I looked, and he'd caught it, and he was hanging on with both hands like this right here. Well, by then Daddy's already gone over on the farm on the truck, and I'm like, okay, dude, how we gonna get you back on this mule? So I went over. There was a bank right there on the side of our yard, like close to the garden or whatever. There was like 3 or 4 foot tall. So I got pulled up beside that bank with the mule, if you can use that terminology. And I said, okay, you jump on from right there. And he did, and we come on over here with it. But that's always been a comical story every time I think about it. Because I just didn't expect it at all. I'll tell one on me though. This was when I don't know, I was probably 10 or 12 years old. We cleared on the right hand side of that land, like going out to Spencer Lacey's place.
Mm-hmm.
And had a bulldozer, you know, clear it, and basically just push your stumps down to the bottom of the hill, and then you know, we planted grass seed and all, and turned the cows in there. Well, he pushed all that topsoil down there, blackberry vines were like crazy along through there. So we would come over and pick blackberries. Well, you know, we always had to pick 1 gallon for Mama. Each one of us had to pick one for her, and then we could pick another 1 or 2 and sell them. Well, we had a little horse. His name was Smokey, and he was over there at the time. I can't remember whether I just rode him over there or whether we actually had him over here on the farm. But anyway, while I picked my first gallon, I'd already picked Mama's. I picked my first gallon, and I took it, set it up there in the shade under a tree. And I went down there to pick a second gallon. And when I got back up there, that stupid horse had done ate my blackberry. It wasn't funny at the time. Our property ends right here, about where that poplar is. Actually, this side of the poplar. It goes right straight down at the bottom of the hill. And then if you go on down to the bottom of this hill, I'll show you a little more. This was Grover Foster's place right here. He wasn't bashful. He got caught a number of times for making liquor. The most interesting story on that, though, was his name was George William Foster, and they called him Grover. Well, his oldest boy was named after him, George William, but they called him George. Yeah, so our property line runs along here now, okay, and goes on out that way. So they caught George making liquor, and you know, cut up his steel and everything, and told him to come to court such and such a day, you know, to find out what they was going to do to him. Because, you know, back then they kind of did a fine in 30 days and that sort of thing.
Yep.
On making liquor. They didn't see where that was a really big deal. So when it come time for George to go to court, Grover went to court in his place. And the man said, "Are you George William Foster?" He said, "Yes, I am." And he told him, you know, okay, well, you're going to have to pull, I think it was 45 days, they said. And some of them asked him, well, in fact, I did one time, because I was always around. I love talking to older people, always have. And I said, well, why did you go and pull time for George? He said, well, I was a lot older than him, and he was able to work more, so he could go and make liquor somewhere else. We could keep on going.
Well, all righty then.
Yeah. But I remember asking Daddy when Mr. Foster died, or Miss Foster died. No, Mr. Foster. When Mr. Foster died, I said, so what's going to happen with their land and all? And he looked at me, he said, I said, with Mr. Foster's land? He said, Mr. Foster don't own any land. I said, what do you mean? Like, he's got that farm over. He said, that's Miss Foster's land. He said, if you're making liquor, you don't have any land that you own, because they'll take it away from you to pay the fines and all. So everything was in her name. I thought that was pretty interesting. And all of these old sheds around here that we used and all, they look awful now. They were pretty nice when we built them and all. What, 40 to 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. Different ones. My dad believed anytime work was going on, we should be there helping him. And I know now that was to teach us how to do stuff. It was not because he needed us to do it. Mm-hmm.
life lessons. Like,
Yes.
that's a very valuable thing that he did for you.
It really is. Really is. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful most of all that he took me to church and showed me how a Christian should act. And secondly, I'd have to say I'm thankful for him teaching me how to work, and to work, not just show up to work, but work and earn your money.
Mm-hmm.
And kids sometimes are a little rambunctious. Not bad, but rambunctious. And my brother and I don't know, I really don't even know what it was about, but he had the shovel and I had another shovel, and it's something we were switching, kind of arguing over it or something, and it swung around. There was a hoe, and he accidentally hit me upside the head over here and busted open pretty good. Of course, had to go and get stitches and all. And the doctor said, you was lucky, because if it had gone a quarter of an inch farther, it would have hit your brain. And I said, well, at least I got a brain. But yeah,
Doctor confirmed.
And that knot is getting bigger, as it really is. It didn't used to be this big.
Noticeable.
Yeah.
What is that tiny house?
That was the Grandpa's corn cribs.
What is a corn crib?
That's where you put the corn to feed the horses and the mules and the cows and all.
So it's like a trough type thing?
No, it's just a little cabin, but log cabin you might say, but it's built up off of the ground, the flooring of it, to keep and it was always built very tight to keep rats and stuff like that out as much as possible. And his barn was right over there, but it's crumbled down now. And in the springtime, if you come over here, it's yellow all up and down this hollow here, right along this little branch here, where Grandma's flowers was planted right up in here. They've spread all down through there, and Grandma's been dead since 1965. But those buttercups and goldenrod come out every spring, just pretty as you please. And I normally come over here just to see them every spring, because it just tickles me to death to see. That was what Grandma did, and my grandma loved flowers, and she really worked them and all. That's an apple tree right there, and that's a peach tree right there. We had apples and peach trees and cherry trees all around the house over here. We would, pick those and can them and all.
That looks like an apple tree, but how come there's no apples on it? Or peaches? I mean, I don't see. Is it not that time? Or
interesting story there that I cannot explain. When we moved out from over here, those trees quit bearing.
Seriously?
Seriously. Grandma's did the same thing. I don't understand it. It was like, hey, I ain't need it anymore. I don't understand it, but it did. If somebody had told me that, I wouldn't have believed it.
That's crazy.
Do you know what a chinky pin is?
Mom talks about them, but I have no idea what they are.
We used to have, it was on Grandpa's place. There was a chinky pin tree right over there. 2 or 3 of them actually right together and all. And it's like a small chestnut.
Okay.
But it's a lot better than a chestnut. I mean, you just peel them open and eat them.
Huh.
And they're good. They're good.
Wow.